Today we continue on with our NHL season preview series, looking at teams currently in the Pacific Division. Today we look at the up-and-coming and somewhat exciting San Jose Sharks. They've had some good picks, some good youth will be injected into this lineup. We'll preview what to expect and how the roster has changed coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're doing a season preview for the San Jose Sharks as we work our way through the league, currently working on teams in the Pacific Division. I think the Sharks are a team who really can't get much worse. They were, the bottom of the barrel last year, 32nd overall, and well, you can only go up from here. And they've added some interesting, really strong, really good youth players here to really make this lineup a lot more fun to watch, a lot more competitive, and I think, to some degree, a lot more successful. Will they jump up drastically in the standings? No, probably not. But they're well on their way, and I do like a lot of the things that Mike Grier has done. I thought they had a really good offseason. So first we're going to do here, in case you're new to the series, we're going to look back at the last year a little bit, kind of just summarize what went down, how the team did, top scores, things like that. Look at their cap space, how the team has changed with their additions and subtractions, any rookies we feel are going to be impactful, some pending UFAs. So guys who are potentially going to be getting contract extensions, RFAs, the same thing. And then we'll look at the projected roster and look at any questions facing this team going into the year. So let's recap the Sharks 23-24 campaign. Of course, like I said, we know they were 32nd in the league. They ended up getting the first overall pick in the 24 NHL draft. They only had 47 points with a record of 19-54-9. Historically bad in a lot of ways, but at the end of the day, hopefully it'll all be worth it here because of the draft selections they got. Goals for, they only scored 181, which surprisingly wasn't worst. It was second worst, 31 overall. Goals against was by far the worst, 331 against. The power play was actually somewhat respectful at 20.2%, and the penalty killing was near the bottom as well of 75.4. So really not a lot going on there in a positive way. The top scorers for the team ended up being Mikael Granlund, leading the way at 60 points. William Eklund at 45 points. Fabian Zetterlund, who came over from the Devils, 44 points. Tomas Hertl, before he was traded, had 34 points. And Anthony Duclair, also 27 points. He ended up getting moved out as well. This team has been out of the playoffs now for 5 consecutive years. It's unfortunately looking like it's going to probably be a few more before they can get back in, but at least they're on the right path. I mean, there was a stretch here for a number of out of those 5 years, at least maybe 3 for sure out of those 5 years when you honestly had to question the direction and what they were doing. Now it's pretty clear they've been able to tear things down pretty close to the bare bones, and they've gotten a lot of high picks, and they've added a lot of strong youth here. So they're certainly trending upwards. And then, of course, this year, as we'll talk about in a second, they added some interesting pieces as well to make this team a little bit better, surrounding this youth with some good veterans. So going into the year, of course, we have some cap space to work with. If they do want to make other additions or weaponize that space to gain extra assets or anything, they've got $10.5 million in space. Of course, we saw a coaching change last year. David Quinn was let go in favor of Ryan Warsofsky. So Ryan Warsofsky, first time NHL head coach, has worked around in coaching for some time, but not a head coach position in the NHL. So we got a new coach, and they've got lots of new talent coming in. Looking at the additions, subtractions, the players who are no longer with this club, will start there. Subtracting was Philip Zadina, Mike Hoffman, Alexander Barabanov, Kevin LeBanc, and Kalen Addison. Addison, they were hopeful in him, picking him up from Minnesota last year, that he'd come over and be able to seize a role. Turned out it was too much for him. At the end of the day, I think Addison still might be able to carve out an NHL spot. Like, he's in training camp with Ottawa right now on a PTO. Maybe he gets a two-way deal. Maybe, third pair is probably maybe his high ceiling. We'll see. But certainly given the opportunity to run a power play and play for top 4 minutes, it just didn't work out for him. So they let him go. Zadina was a player they obviously took a chance on, and that didn't work out either. Zadina's out of the league now. Hoffman's on a PTO. Barabanov left, and LeBanc is on a PTO as well. So really, they didn't let anything go that really had much value. Anything that had value, they were able to trade it. Now, new to the club this year, they made some good signings and other moves, bringing in Tyler Toffoli on a long-term free agent contract. Toffoli wanted a place to kind of settle down. Obviously played in California for an extended time before. Likes it there. and was willing to go to San Jose and be the veteran mentor, if you will, and one of the guys that can kind of stick this out and help lead the way. Alex Wenberg comes over UFA as well. Barclay Gaudreau, they get him from the Rangers, kind of through a backhanded kind of way with waivers, but they pick up that contract. Of course, Gaudreau played in San Jose before, was more interested in playing for a contender right now than going back to San Jose, but it is what it is. They picked up Carl Grundstrom from Los Angeles. They took Ty Dellandrea from Dallas. Those are both some players that were RFAs not being qualified and were traded. Obviously, those guys were I wouldn't say they were leftovers or players that the other team didn't want, but they were just guys that didn't seem to fit there anymore. They wanted to get fresh starts for. So they get picked those guys up. They get Cody Ceci, veteran defenseman from Edmonton. Jake Wallman, has a decent amount of experience now from Detroit. And of course, the big move, getting Yaroslav Askarov from Nashville in a pretty solid trade as well. Hopefully nailing down their goaltender of the future. They did have Aaron Dell in training camp as well on a PTO. And even though training camps have only been underway a couple of days, he's already been cut. So Aaron Dell will not be moving forward with the Sharks. As far as impactful rookies, well, you got the first overall pick, Macklin Celebrini. He's definitely going to play in the NHL this year. How much impact, it's hard to say. It's going to be a lot of pressure on him, but I do think he's going to be very fun to watch for sure. I'm not going to give any predictions right now on what I think he's going to put up for points. I don't think he'll put up as much as Bedard did last year. I think Celebrini might turn out to be the better two-way player, more complete player, but I think Bedard will be more offensive that way. Will Smith obviously left college and signed as well. Another young, offensively very talented player to watch. So again, another exciting player. Maduka Madulin as well should get some opportunities with this club, but Celebrini and Smith are going to probably grab the limelight in the attention for sure. As far as guys that are on expiring contracts that you could see extensions for, goalies Blackwood and Vanacek, Jan Ruda, Cody Ceci on the back end, Mikhail Granlund, Luke Kunin, and Nico Sturm. I'm not really sure you're going to see any of that, to be honest. I think Blackwood and Vanacek, it's difficult to say. I think they're hoping to have Askarov see some action this year and be definitely full-time next year. So I don't see both those guys being back. Maybe one. Hard to say how that goes. Ruda, CC, Granlund, they could all be ideal trade candidates at the deadline. So I'm not sure we're going to see that. Kunin signed a 1-year deal, so he's not even eligible till January. Sturm, hard to say, right? On the RFA side, you get Klim Kostin and Fabian Zetterlund. Maybe they get an extension. That would probably be your more likely scenario. So looking at your roster going into the campaign, you're going to probably have 3 goaltenders throughout the season between Blackwood, Vanacek, and Askarov. Hard to say if Askarov will. I think he will go to the minors if need be. I don't think they're going to have any issue there, even though that was his big gripe with the Predators, because he sees a path to get into full-time duty in the NHL sooner than later. On the back end, of course, you still got some veterans there like Vlasic, Mario Ferrero still there, Jake Wallman and Cody Ceci come in. So you're going to have a top 4 D of lots of experience, and even on the back on the third pair, you've still got like Ruda, Benning, and Henry Thrun as well. So it's going to be quite a different looking blue line. You're not really going to see a lot of youth back there, a lot of guys that are, maybe not ready for the role they're going to be given. Like, you saw guys like Addison, Emerson, like those guys are not there any longer. Ty Emerson, of course, moved on as well, which I forgot to mention in the subtractions piece. But, clearly lots of experience in the back end. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. Hard to say how many of them are going to be there longer term, but they come in and they kind of, will insulate some of these guys. Up front, you do have Captain Logan Couture, who we believe is not ready to play. Big question mark on Logan Couture, but besides him, you've got Tyler Toffoli, Mikhail Granlund, Alex Winberg, Barclay Gaudreau, Luke Kunin. Of course, you got Celebrini and Smith will be in there. Zetterlund, Klim Kostin, Sturm, Grundstrom, William Eklund, Dellandrea, Thomas Bordelot, I expect to be competing for a spot as well. So you've got about 13, 14 forwards there that could all play. Hard to say exactly who makes the roster, who doesn't, who has to go back. Obviously, some of these guys can play in the minors, while some can't. Some you may see a player or two on waivers. It's hard to say. Of course, injuries and whatnot will play a role here, but I suspect you're going to see Celebrini, Smith, Eklund get every opportunity. There are 3 players that are going to be a big part of the future. I would hope to see Bordelot take a step this year. Even guys like Dellandrea, who come in. Zetterlund, you hope that they can continue to build and become, a solid member of your middle six part of your lineup is kind of what you're hoping for. Granlund may not be there the whole year. It's hard to say. Like, he was picked up as a bad contract, but has played well. So again, you're going to see a few of these forwards likely moved out throughout the campaign. But I would think you're going to probably see like Celebrini and Smith be given every opportunity to play a top six role, and combine them with guys like Toffoli and Granlund, Eklund, Zetterlund. Those are probably going to be your top six players there. They are all talented guys, and you get a good mix of youth with some veteran leadership. So we'll see how all that works out. Then you've got a bunch of guys there that are kind of battling for your third and fourth line roles. I would suspect Wenberg likely centers line 3. Gaudreau probably plays on line 4. Outside of that, you've got Kunin's on a contract. We'll probably see him on the fourth line. Same with Costin, maybe Grunstrom, Dellandrea probably on your third line. It's kind of hard to say. There's definitely some competitions. There's not a given about playing time. So they've brought in more guys for competition. The youth can get their spots, but it's not a given. And there's lots of better veteran insulation around them to make sure that they're learning to be pros and surrounded by the right people to help them take the next step. So will San Jose be a better team this year? Yes, but not by a lot. Will they? I don't think that they're necessarily a candidate to finish last in the NHL. They could be last in their division. That's possible. At this point, if I had to pick, I think the most likely team to be in 30 seconds probably Columbus, barring some other moves. But I think San Jose will probably still be. You're looking at another high pick. I think they're able to move up some spots in the standings, but you're probably looking at definitely being in the lottery and most likely being in the top or the bottom 5 to 7 teams, somewhere in that range. So in all honesty, they will not be drastically better, but they will be a lot more entertaining. I think a lot more competitive. And I think you'll see a lot of flashes of high-end skill to give you a lot more optimism about the future. That's as far as it's going to be one of those years where you're just kind of still looking into the future. It will be a 6th straight year out of the playoffs, in my prediction, but they're going in the right direction. Another high impactful player hopefully will come through the next 25 draft, and maybe, and I think they're probably still a year or two away from really making a big jump in the standings and be able to move up. But the Pacific Division, when you're looking at, Calgary's kind of starting to tail down. You've got obviously Seattle's kind of a tweener. You've got Anaheim's looking to move up. The same with the Sharks. Can teams like Vegas and LA kind of hold on there, or are they going to end up coming down? Vancouver and Edmonton kind of surging near the top. I think there's an opportunity in the next 1 to 2 years, depending on what teams like LA and Vegas do, that San Jose and Anaheim can kind of slowly start to working their way back into that top 4 conversation. But it's not going to be easy, that's for sure. Let me know your thoughts on the Sharks' upcoming season down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.